I'm Brenna Gibbons. Here in Breckenridge, there is an unknown grave that many of the locals have heard about. The story is that it belongs to a victim of the 1981 Columbus Day floods that was never identified. But after looking into the story further, that may not be true.
We want to figure out who this lady is and make sure she gets back to her family.
I'm Michael Roach, the county judge in Stevens County, Texas.
The Columbus Day flood of 1981 is still remembered as one of Breckenridge's most devastating disasters.
It dumped a ton of rain within a short period of time, and it flooded Stevens County. Actually, there's a creek that runs through the center of Breckenridge, and it divides the town east and west. So we had a huge flood there, and there was devastating loss, lots of property and things like that.
Soon after that flood, the remains of an unidentified person were found and buried in Breckenridge. But Judge Roach says there was another major flood just a few years earlier, in 1978 in Albany.
A massive amount of rainfall. And there's a huge wall of water. If you look back at some of the stories that came down the Hubbard Creek, and then some other areas, there's some outlying tributaries that branch off Hubbard Creek right where this lady was found. All of that area flooded significantly during that time too.
After some investigating, Judge Roach told us that he discovered that this unknown grave may actually belong to somebody who went missing in the 1978 flood in Albany.
We researched some newspapers from Albany during that time and Breckenridge. And what we found on the Albany paper was that a few weeks after the flooding, we went 2 months, I think, after the flooding event and looked at the newspapers. And then we looked at a 10-year anniversary edition of that paper that was published in May of 1988. And what that indicated was there were 4 individuals who were never recovered, and 2 of those were female.
He says he started this search because, in his words, it's not right for somebody to be unknown in a cemetery.
I thought that maybe a search in the records would really let us know who she was and would solve this pretty quick. But when I saw the date discrepancy, then it began a quest. This was not someone local. This was an individual who the story we've been told is not right. This really needs to be investigated.
Judge Roach says he's determined to find out who is buried here and finally give her a name.
We are 99% sure who the individual is that's laid to rest with the unknown grave marker.
In Breckenridge, there's an unknown grave that belongs to a woman who was found and buried in the 1980s. And until now, nobody knew who she was. I'm Brenna Gibbons, and I spoke with Stevens County Judge Michael Roach, who took on this investigation to finally identify her.
The whole point about this investigation to begin with was not being seen as a human to be in a grave marker that has unknown. All of us have a story. We're all uniquely created. And for someone's loved one to be somewhere unknown, that's just not right.
Breckenridge resident Chastity Willith brought this story to Judge Roach, wanting to figure out who was buried under the unknown headstone.
15 years ago, we lost my brother, unfortunately, and it was a year after we had lost him. We buried him here, and a year later, I come to bring flowers, and I just happened to walk back and notice that there was a headstone that said unknown white female, and it just kind of struck me as odd, trying to figure out who she was or what happened to her.
He said it's not just her who wants to find out who lies in the grave.
It's very important to find out who she was, not only to me, but to the community, so I feel like it's something that needs to be done for sure.
Judge Roach says after digging through records and old reports, he's now 99% certain he knows who the woman is.
We believe it to be Nettie Mae Cooper.
He told us no photos of Nettie Mae survived after the flood. He said she was from Breckenridge but was living in Albany at the time of the 1978 flood.
The reports from the flood in 1978 show that there were 4 missing individuals. There was a couple that was swept away in a house. There was 2 other individuals never recovered, a male and a female. So we only had 1 female that met the descriptors of the remains that were found.
Judge Roach says that the process to identify her took some time, but he's confident that the woman under this unknown marker is Nettie Mae Cooper. I'm Brenna Gibbons. After the 1981 Columbus Day floods in Breckenridge, a woman was buried in a grave marked unknown. But after recent investigation by Judge Michael Roach, he's confident that the woman buried here is Nettie Mae Cooper.
Visiting with family members about Nettie Mae, one of the things that was unique to her was she had false teeth, and the medical examiner's report shows that there must have been dentures given the examination of the skeletal remains. Those teeth were not present. It looked like she had had dental work done.
We asked Roach, why wasn't this determined in 1981 when her body was found?
In the reports, it indicates that Sheriff Riley was going to pull dental records to make that certain match back in 1981. However, from the time of the dental work in the flood in 1978 to 1981, when the remains were discovered, that dentist had passed away and none of his records were available. So they weren't able to do that.
He told us there were many factors that led him to this identification.
She was in the flood area that was listed on several government records. You have an individual who matches all the characteristics, unique characteristics like dental work. You have the body being discovered in the flood area. You have the age that is, all these things add up to where we feel 99% sure that's who it is.
Judge Roach told us there was one other factor that was likely a reason that she was not discovered sooner.
Nettie Mae Cooper was an African American lady. The reports and the head marker says white person, but there was a determination made at the time that she was white looking at the skeletal remains. But in the report, it says that her African American ancestry cannot be ruled out. So they didn't make a 100% determination on that, but that was just their view at the time.
Judge Roach says the only way to be 100% sure that this is Nettie Mae Cooper would be to get a DNA test. In 1978, a devastating flood tore through Albany, destroying much of the city. But for one family, the flood took more than just their home, it took their mother. I'm Brenna Gibbons, and in 1981, this grave was marked as unknown, but now it's believed to belong to a victim of the Albany flood, Nettie Mae Cooper.
I just kept looking for my mom to come. I wanted my mama to come, but she never did. She just never did.
Sharon Porter, one of Nettie Mae's daughters, said the day started like any other.
We went out for a little bit to play, but we noticed the water was higher than normal.
She said the water rose quickly and they tried to get to higher ground.
We tried to get to a neighbor on the side of us, but the water was too swift. We couldn't make it, so she just helped us to get in the tree.
Nettie Mae's granddaughter, Glenna, was just 3 years old at the time, but she remembers that day vividly.
My grandmother turned around before the water got too high to go back and get some pictures. And that's the last time I saw her. That's the last time I saw her.
The family told us none of their photos survived the flood, leaving them with nothing but memories of what Nettie Mae looked like. Barbara Ann Walker, Nettie Mae's other daughter, and Glenna's mother, was also there that day.
None of us never could swim. And she went down fighting the rapids. The rapids took her in.
So did you see her when the flood took her?
Yes, I saw her go down, yes.
We noticed the water was too swift. There was concrete slabs floating in the water, and the water just took her.
The family told me that the Albany flood of 1978 was something they will never forget.
I remember hearing just a lot of things, people crying out and the water rushing and things like that. What seemed like forever, there was someone that came back in a boat, removed me and my mom for the tree, took us to the Red Cross.
Much of the family was reunited after the flood, but Nettie Mae never made it back to her loved ones.
I was just hoping that somebody, got her and and helped her, but she just didn't.
Nearly 50 years later, time has passed, but the loss remains, and this grave only tells part of Nettie Mae Cooper's story.
My mother was a really beautiful person. She's wonderful heart. She worked all the time to take care of all her children. She loved all of us.
She was a hard worker. She tried to take care of her family.
Nettie Mae Cooper was a loved mother and grandmother who disappeared after the 1978 flood in Albany. For nearly 50 years, nobody knew what happened to her, but now it's believed that she's here, in this grave that's been marked as unknown since 1981.
We don't even know if it is my mama, but of course we got to go see, because we want her to rest.
A few years ago, Nettie Mae's family got a call from someone in Shackelford County, telling them they found her remains and they were buried in another city.
My aunt and my mom went down to see where they buried my grandmother in Shackelford County, but there was no record. No one remembered the call. Nobody was like, everybody was like, we don't know who would have called you.
In November of 2025, Nettie Mae's granddaughter, Glenna, got a call from Stevens County Judge Michael Roach telling her they may have actually found her grandmother.
It was really heart-wrenching at first because to have to tell your mom, who's already up in age, that, we don't think that your mom is truly buried. So that closure that she thought she had, she doesn't get.
I asked Nettie Mae's daughters if they could say anything to their mom right now. What would they want to tell her?
I would tell her that I love her very much, and I miss her. I miss her every day. I love her. We all love her.
That I love her and I miss her.
The family says they are very thankful to Chastity Willeth for noticing the unmarked grave and starting this investigation that may have finally led them back to their loved one.
We're at the point where we think if we can petition to the court to have them maybe where we can excavate and exhume and do a DNA, but the emotions, it's the same as if she had just died. It's the same thing. The loss of someone. I don't think it's going to ever not be that way until we actually are able to bury her and have somewhere to go and have those visits.
For Nettie Mae Cooper's family, the answer to where she's been all these years may finally be within reach. And they say the possibility of identifying her brings them closer to closure and ensures that she is never unknown again. This grave right here is believed to belong to Nettie Mae Cooper, a victim of the 1978 Albany flood. I'm Brenna Gibbons, and until now, we thought she was buried here in 1981. But some new information has come to light, and we now know she was actually buried here in 2009.
In 1999, I started with the Sheriff's Department, and one of the reasons I found the bones is that the sheriff asked me to go downstairs in the basement and clean it out.
Adam Babylon says while cleaning the courthouse basement, he stumbled across Nettie Mae's remains.
I asked the sheriff at that time, whose bones? He said she popped up during a flood in '81. Well, wow. I said, what are we going to do with them? He says, I don't know. He said, I've been waiting for somebody to claim these bones, and nobody has come up.
He told us that prior to him finding the remains, they were sent to Dallas Forensics.
And the best they could come up with was that it was a female, couldn't tell us what race, couldn't tell us anything else, except it was a female. So we let it go.
Years later, in 2009, the Sheriff's Department prepared to move out of the courthouse.
So we had to get all the evidence out of this locker, and one of the things were the bones down in the basement. And I decided at that time, we need to put her in the ground.
After receiving permission, Babylon organized a small burial service.
So I made a coffin, we had a service, we had a preacher, we had flowers. My wife and some other ladies came. There was actually, I think, a song. We sang a hymn. The preacher gave a very nice eulogy, though we had no idea who she was. And we placed her in the coffin and put the bones in the cemetery over there.
The headstone marking Nettie Mae's grave was donated.
The man that ran the mortuary at that time, the burial service, he donated the plaque. And he came up with found in 1981. That's why everybody thought, we buried her in 1981. It's not true. We didn't bury her until 2009.
Babylon says he's grateful the Nettie Mae was finally given a proper farewell.
It was a very nice service, actually, it really was. We had beautiful flowers. It was all donated. Everybody donated stuff, so that's pretty cool.
He says the casket was something that he made himself.
It was just a simple pine box with the cross on top, with handles, stained and you know, and pretty and all that. And we put it in the ground that way. It's always nice to see a happy ending.
After all these years, Nettie Mae's story is not just about how she died, but how she was remembered. From a long-forgotten memorial to her final resting place, her story is finally coming into focus.